Hello and welcome to My Retired Life. Today I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about planning for retirement and what I did when I was in my 40s. Now, when we were younger, my wife and I decided we were going to become snowbirds. So that's the first decision you have to do with. Come up with a decision where you want to be when you retire. And we came up with snowbirds. But this video is about how I obtained a second home in Arizona. But it relates to the snowbird story, so bear with me. So when we were in our 40s, we decided that we were going to look at Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, and spend the winters in one of those. But before we did, in our 40s, we took trips down there, and we rented a condo for a month in each of the different states, in different locations, whether it be Orlando, or towards Miami a little bit more, or whether it was in Texas, we were South Texas on, Galveston, just south of Houston, and then we tried Arizona, and then we tried California. We didn't like California because it was too expensive. And based on those sites, I wanted to live in Florida for my snowbird home. Unfortunately, my wife liked Arizona. We also checked out Vegas, but Vegas gets a little cool in New Year's Eve time. Like, it was cold, so we wiped that out pretty quick. But anyway, but my wife liked Arizona. Happy wife, happy life. And to me, it didn't matter. I preferred Florida. She preferred Arizona because she didn't want us to be part of a hurricane or anything with weather related with that. And it is humid in the summer, so there's a little bit more care in looking after a home. But as it turns out, I digress a little bit on this story. We decided that we were going to pick Arizona. So this was about 2010. So 14 years ago, we decided Arizona was going to be the place. Well, lo and behold, we had saved money thinking that we would, buy a mobile home in a park, pay monthly rent, and spend our winters in a mobile home. But 2008, well, the market crashed and homes went down drastically. So it was a free fall on the American housing front, and our dollar became stronger. Right now, our dollar is worth 75 cents to the US dollar, roughly, plus the exchange costs. So for us to go down to the States and buy American money, it is now probably $1.33, $1.35 for us to buy American money to get $1. So back then, it was at par. So your American dollar, Canadian dollar were even. And the housing market had dropped. Now, we looked at trailers while we were out looking at them, mobile homes, park models, 55 communities, because that's when we were going to retire, was 55. But this 2010 phenomena where our dollar was strong and the American dollar was weak compared to ours, and we looked at an open house in Arizona, and we thought we can afford this, like a house rather than a trailer, because the home prices drastically dropped. And I'll tell you the price that we paid for the house in a minute, so stay tuned. Now we get to back into Canada, and the market is still crashed. Our dollar is still strong. I think it was even a little stronger when we bought. We basically said we got to go and buy a house. Trailers were much cheaper, but a house was much more practical. And investment-wise, it was a better deal. So what we did was I basically sent Kim down about 5 times. She must have looked at 70, 80 houses. And she came across one just before she was leaving on her last trip down. We decided to put an offer in on that house. Now, this house, 3-bedroom, 1,300 square feet, big master bedroom, kitchen, 2 other bedrooms. It was in a big backyard and backed onto a golf course. Well, you know me in golf, I'm like a pig in poop. So I said, well, let's put an offer in. We had saved that much money for, we could have paid for a trailer for 20 grand, and then all the extra money that we were going to make for monthly payments from 55 on for the rental fee, the pad rental fee, we thought, we'll just buy the house. So we did. We bought the house for $52,000. When I was 50 in 2010, it was going to be, that's it. We're going to buy this house. We got 5 years to come down for a month at a time, because that's what I could take in vacation. And I always took it in the winter. We came down for 5 years in a row, and we fixed it up the way we wanted it to. We put a couple of pads in the backyard for patio furniture and a fire pit. We rocked the backyard. I outlined for a putting green to be in the backyard, and we could see the golfers go by. $52,000 was a bargain in our eyes, because we only have to pay property taxes, which was basically at that time $800 a year. It was a no-brainer. It cost us basically $2,000 to keep the house up when we weren't there. That's how I became a second homeowner. Now, for 5 years, we paid money into that and really did not stay down there that long. Like we do now that I'm retired, we stay down for 5.5 months. We're entitled to 6 months, but we stay down for 5.5. In case there's ever an emergency, we have to fly down. We got a couple weeks grace. My son lives in Minneapolis, so if we have to fly and see my granddaughter, we've got some time to play with where we're not going to get taxed. If you go over the 183 days or 6 months, you get taxed in Canada and the US. So that's why many snowbirds only go for 6 months. Just so you know. But we decided that the home was the way to go, and we're so glad that we did. Fast forward to this year, in January, housing market went up, our Canadian dollar went down, the American dollar went up. We decided we were going to sell the house. January, we sold the house. But at the same time, we took the proceeds from the house, which we did fairly well on. We're going to pay capital gains on it, but we did fairly well in the investment side of things. We bought another double, they call it park models. It's like a mobile home, but it doesn't have wheels. It's like a modular home. It's like a double wide mobile home, and we pay park fees, which are reasonable, and we have all the amenities there. So now what we did was, with the money that we made from our house, we just put it down in a bank account in the States. Now, keep in mind, we didn't want to make interest on that money. Yeah, you heard me right. I didn't want to make interest on the money from our sale of our house. We just put it in a savings account with no interest. And because if we started making interest there, now we have to pay taxes in both countries again. Because I have an income, whether it's just a little bit of interest or I put it into stocks or something. Now I have an income in the United States. Now I have to file out 2 tax returns. I don't want to be taxed twice. So we just put it in a savings account, and now what we're doing is we're living off the profits that we made from our house from 5 years ago. We had the house for 10 years. We basically quadrupled our money, and now we don't have to worry about ever exchanging Canadian money again, because we have a bank account with American money in it. So do you see where this is going? I'm basically living down there on the profits that we made from our other house. And that's how I got another house in America. There was a couple questions on how did I afford it. That's how. Nowadays, could you afford it? I'm not sure. You'd have to save a lot of money, and you'd have to look for maybe a fixer-upper to actually even own 2 homes. Because the Canadian dollar in Canada is so weak to the American dollar, for most Canadians it's not possible unless you live in Toronto or Vancouver and you sell your house, because their houses are worth millions in Toronto and Vancouver. So you could do that with the extra money that you get from that investment. Smart-wise, we did the best thing we ever did, was buy a house in the United States for $52,000. Before I go, you might want to check out this video for some regrets, or this video up here for whatever YouTube suggested for you. And we'll call this one done.